I never thought a phone could end a relationship. That sounds ridiculous, right? A small rectangle of metal and glass causing 5 years of love to crumble. But here I am, sitting alone in my apartment, staring at this $1,200 piece of technology like it's a murder weapon. In a way, I guess it is. It killed something precious. It was just 3 days ago. I remember the weight of the shopping bag swinging from my fingers, the spring in my step as I climbed the stairs to our third-floor apartment instead of taking the elevator. I was excited, childishly so. 3 paychecks saved, hours of research done, countless YouTube reviews watched. The newest model with the best camera, fastest processor, and largest storage available. I'd been waiting 6 months for this upgrade. The key turned in the lock, and I called out to Sarah as I always did. "Honey, I'm home." Such a cliché, but it was our thing. She was curled up on the couch, her dark hair tied in that messy bun she wears when she's been working from home all day, glasses perched on the tip of her nose. "Hey," she said, not looking up from her laptop. "How was your day?" I couldn't contain my grin as I pulled the sleek box from the bag. "I finally got it." Her eyes flicked up then, moving from my face to the box and back again. Something shifted in her expression. So subtle I almost missed it. A tightening around her mouth. A dullness entering her usually bright eyes. "You bought the phone?" Not a question, a flat statement. "Yeah, remember, I've been saving up." I was already breaking the seal on the packaging, that satisfying sound of new electronics being unwrapped filling our living room. "This camera is going to be insane. We can finally take decent photos on our hikes." Sarah closed her laptop with a soft click. "We haven't been hiking in 8 months, Alex." I paused, the phone half extracted from its pristine cradle. "Well, yeah, we've been busy, but now that spring's here—" "You've been busy," she corrected, standing up. "Every weekend it's either work or you're too tired or you've got plans with the guys." I felt the first prickle of irritation. This was supposed to be a happy moment. Why was she trying to ruin it? "That's not fair. I asked if you wanted to come to Dave's barbecue last Saturday." At the last minute, after I'd already made plans with Jen. She wrapped her arms around herself, that defensive posture I'd come to recognize over the years. "Besides, that's not the point." I set the phone down, still connected to its box by the last piece of packaging. "Then what is the point, Sarah? Because I'm standing here excited about something I worked hard for, and you're giving me grief over— What? Buying something for myself?" "It's not about the phone, Alex." Her voice cracked slightly. "Do you know what today is?" I blinked, mentally scrolling through my calendar. Not her birthday, that was in October. Not our anniversary. That was summer, July 16th. I was sure of it. "Thursday?" I offered weakly. The tears that had been building in her eyes spilled over then. "It's the day we first met. 7 years ago today. You asked for my number at that coffee shop on campus, remember? You were so nervous you spilled your latte all over your statistics textbook." My stomach dropped. I did remember, or I should have. We used to celebrate it every year for the first few years, going back to that same coffee shop, ordering the same drinks. When had we stopped? "Sarah, I'm sorry. It just slipped my mind with work being so crazy and—" "Emma and Mike are in Napa Valley right now," she interrupted, wiping a tear from her cheek. "He surprised her last night, packed her bags while she was at work." She laughed, but it was hollow. "And Taylor? Jordan writes her a letter every week. Every single week for 3 years. Just because—" I stood there, the excitement of my purchase evaporating like morning dew. "I didn't realize we were competing with your friends' relationships." "We're not competing. That's exactly it. There's no competition because you stopped trying." Her voice quieted to almost a whisper. When was the last time you did something thoughtful for me? Something that wasn't prompted by a holiday or me explicitly asking. I racked my brain, desperate to prove her wrong. There had to be something recent. A surprise dinner? Flowers for no reason? A small gift I'd seen in a shop window that reminded me of her? The longer I stood in silence, the more her point was made. You saved for months for that phone, she continued, her voice steadier now. You researched it. You talked about it. You planned for it. When was the last time you put that kind of energy into us? The truth of her words hit me like a physical blow. I looked down at the device in my hands, sleek, new, full of promise. Then back at Sarah, the woman I'd sworn to love above all else, standing in our living room with tears on her face, looking like she was already miles away from me. Sarah, come on. It's just a phone. No, it's not just a phone. It's where your priority is, and I'm not on that list anymore. She turned and walked to our bedroom. I followed, the phone still clutched in my hand, to find her pulling a small suitcase from under the bed. What are you doing? Panic rose in my throat. I'm going to stay with Jen for a few days. She began placing clothes into the suitcase with mechanical precision. I need some space to think. Think about what? But I knew, God help me, I knew. She stopped and looked at me, really looked at me, for what felt like the first time in months. About whether I want to be with someone who doesn't see me anymore. Someone who's more excited about an upgrade to their phone than they are about coming home to me. The word upgrade hung in the air between us, taking on a meaning far beyond technology. I stood in the doorway, watching her pack, feeling our 5 years together slipping through my fingers like sand. The phone in my hand suddenly felt cold, meaningless, and I couldn't find the words to make her stay. The apartment door closed with a soft click, not the dramatic slam you'd expect from a life-altering moment. That's the thing about catastrophes. They don't always announce themselves with thunder and lightning. Sometimes they whisper. I stood frozen in the middle of our bedroom, still clutching that damn phone, listening to Sarah's footsteps fade down the hallway. A text chimed. Not from my old device, but the new one, already signed in and synced to my accounts. My mother. How's Sarah? Tell her we can't wait to see you both at Easter. The irony wasn't lost on me. I sank onto the edge of our unmade bed, the indentation from Sarah's body still visible on her side. I ran my fingers over the dent in her pillow. How many nights had I slept next to her, both of us illuminated by the blue glow of our screens, saying we were together but worlds apart. That first night alone was surreal. I ordered takeout that I couldn't taste and scrolled through a social media feed I couldn't focus on. I tried calling her twice, straight to voicemail both times. I typed and deleted a dozen text messages, each one more desperate than the last. What do you say when I am sorry feels woefully inadequate? Around midnight, when sleep refused to come, I found myself opening our photo albums, digital memories stored neatly in the cloud. I scrolled backward through time, past Christmas at my parents', past our last vacation to the coast, past her birthday dinner where my gift was a practical kitchen appliance she'd mentioned wanting. God, had I really been that unimaginative? I kept going, back and back, watching us grow younger on the screen. Then I found it. A grainy selfie taken 7 years ago to the day. Our first photo together, outside that coffee shop where we met. Sarah's smile was radiant, her head tilted toward mine. I looked nervous and smitten. We were just kids, really. Me with longer hair and less defined jawline, her with those chunky highlight streaks that were trendy back then. But our eyes, that's what stopped my breath. The way we were looking at each other, like we'd discovered something miraculous. When had that look disappeared? It hadn't vanished overnight. No, this was a slow fade, imperceptible in its day-to-day decline, but devastating in its culmination. I slept on her side of the bed that night, face buried in her pillow. The next morning I went through the motions of living. Shower, coffee, work email, a text from Dave asking if I wanted to try the new virtual reality setup he'd bought. The irony made me laugh bitterly. Another guy upgrading his technology while his relationship probably withered. I didn't respond. Instead, I found myself opening a browser on my laptop and typing, "How to save your relationship." The results were predictably generic. Date nights, communication, quality time. I was about to close the window when one article caught my eye. "The 5 languages of love. Are you speaking the same one?" Skeptical but desperate, I clicked. According to this psychologist, people express and receive love differently, through words, gifts, acts of service, quality time, or physical touch. When partners speak different languages, they can miss each other's expressions of love entirely. I took the online quiz, answering honestly. My primary language was words of affirmation, followed by physical touch. I found myself wondering what Sarah's would be. I had a sinking feeling I already knew from her comments about her friends' relationships. Quality time, acts of service, the things I'd been least giving of lately. Around noon, courage bolstered by 2 cups of coffee, I texted Sarah, "Can we talk?" 3 excruciating hours later, she responded, "Not ready yet." Just 3 words, but they cracked open my chest. Not no, not never, but not yet. Hope, fragile as it was, took root. I called in sick to work the next day, something I hadn't done in 3 years even when I'd had actual flu. My boss sounded shocked, but didn't question it. I spent the morning cleaning our apartment with a fervor that bordered on mania, as if I could scrub away my mistakes along with the dust. Under the couch, I found one of Sarah's earrings, a small pearl stud she'd been looking for weeks ago. Had I helped her search? I couldn't remember. Probably not. I'd likely been absorbed in something else, something now insignificant. I placed the earring on her nightstand, a tiny treasure waiting for her return. In the bathroom drawer, I found her list. Sarah was always making lists, groceries, goals, gift ideas. This one was titled, "Things to Do This Year," dated January 1st. Most items had check marks beside them, evidence of her methodical nature. But several remained unticked. Weekend trip to the mountains, learn to make Dad's pasta sauce from scratch, see the cherry blossoms in the park, take a dance class with Alex, volunteer at the animal shelter. I stared at the 4th item. She'd wanted us to take a dance class together. Had she mentioned this to me? Maybe during one of those conversations I'd half listened to while scrolling through my phone? The thought made me sick with shame. That afternoon I drove to Jen's apartment. I knew Sarah wouldn't be there. Wednesday was her late day at the office. But I needed to talk to someone who knew her. Really knew her. Jen answered the door with narrowed eyes and crossed arms. "She doesn't want to see you yet," she said before I could speak. "I know. I'm not here to ambush her. I need to understand what happened, what I've been missing." Jen studied me for a long moment, then sighed and stepped aside. "You've been missing a lot, Alex. That's the problem." Inside, she made tea I didn't want and set it before me with a precision that communicated her displeasure. "Sarah's been unhappy for months. You know that, right?" I stared into the amber liquid. "I guess I didn't. Or I didn't want to see it." "Your anniversary last year. You got her a wireless charging pad." I winced. She needed one. No, she needed to feel special. Seen. Jen's voice softened slightly. She got you that vintage record player you'd been eyeing for years, Alex, and those limited edition vinyl records you mentioned once in passing. She spent weeks tracking them down. The memory resurfaced. My lackluster reaction, distracted by an important email that now, in retrospect, couldn't have been that important at all. I'd thanked her, set up the record player, played the records a few times. But had I ever truly acknowledged the thought, the time, the love that went into that gift? She's always been better at this than me, I admitted. At remembering things, planning things. It's not about being better. It's about trying. Jen leaned forward. When was the last time you did something just because it would make her happy? I couldn't answer. The silence stretched between us, damning. She loves you, you idiot, Jen finally said. But loving someone isn't always enough, not when you feel invisible to them. As I drove home, Jen's words echoed in my head. Sarah felt invisible to me. The woman I woke up next to every morning, ate dinner with most nights, shared a life with, felt unseen by me. How does that happen? How do you lose sight of the person right in front of you? I called my mother that evening and, to her surprise, asked for relationship advice for the first time in my adult life. She listened quietly to my stumbling explanation, then said simply, "Love isn't a feeling, Alex. It's a choice you make every day, a conscious decision to put someone else's happiness alongside your own." I thought about Sarah, about her list, about the dance class we never took and the mountain trip we never planned, about all the times she'd tried to speak a language of love I wasn't fluent in, and I realized that if I wanted her back, I would need to learn. 4 days. 4 days without Sarah's laughter filling our apartment. 4 days of rehearsing conversations in my head that never came to fruition. 4 days of realizing how much of our life together I'd taken for granted. I finally worked up the courage to text her again on the 5th day. No pressure, no desperation, just thinking of you, hope you're okay. She responded almost immediately. I'm okay, just need more time. More time. The words both relieved and terrified me. Relief that she was still considering a future with us in it. Terror that each passing day might solidify her decision to leave permanently. I found myself at that coffee shop, the one where we'd met 7 years ago. It hadn't changed much. Same chalkboard menu, same mismatched furniture, same corner table where I'd first spotted her. I ordered the same cinnamon latte I'd been drinking that day, and sat in what I hoped was the same chair. The barista, a young woman with vibrant blue hair, caught me staring vacantly at Sarah's empty seat across from me. "Waiting for someone?" she asked as she wiped down a nearby table. "Yes, no, I mean..." I sighed. "It's complicated." She nodded sagely, as if at 20-something she'd already accumulated the wisdom of the ages. "Relationship stuff? How'd you guess?" "You've got that look, like your favorite record got scratched." She leaned against the table. "My girlfriend and I broke up 3 times before we figured it out." "What was your secret?" I asked, partly out of politeness, partly out of genuine desperation. We started paying attention to how the other person receives love, instead of just giving what we'd want to receive. She shrugged like this was the most obvious thing in the world. Turns out I was speaking Spanish and she was speaking French, love language-wise. The coincidence of her metaphor with what I'd been reading made me laugh. "Let me guess. You're familiar with the 5 love languages?" "Oh God, yes. Mandatory reading in lesbian culture?" she said with a grin. "Let me guess. Your partner's a quality time person, and you've been giving them... what, gifts?" Her accuracy made me uncomfortable. "How did you know?" "Lucky guess. It's a common mismatch." She glanced at my new phone sitting on the table. "Plus, you look like a guy who appreciates nice things. Nothing wrong with that, unless your person needs something else." I stirred my cooling latte thoughtfully. I think I've been missing a lot of signals. Most people do, she said kindly. The good news is, it's fixable, if you both want to fix it. As I left the coffee shop, something the barista said kept replaying in my mind. If you both want to fix it. Did Sarah want to? Did I deserve another chance? Back at the apartment, I made a decision. If Sarah needed time, I would give her that. But I would also use this time to learn who she had become while I wasn't paying attention, to understand what she needed from me that I hadn't been giving. I pulled out a notebook, an actual paper one, not the Notes app on my new phone, and began to write. I listed all the things Sarah had mentioned wanting to do over the past year that we hadn't done. The dance class, the mountain trip, the pasta-making lesson with her father, the cherry blossoms. I wrote down the names of her friends and their partners, trying to identify what exactly she admired about their relationships. Mike and Emma's spontaneous trips, Jordan's weekly letters to Taylor. What else had she mentioned over the months that I'd dismissed or forgotten? I texted Jen. What makes Sarah feel loved? Please help me understand. Jen's response was terse but helpful. Time. Undivided attention, effort. Showing her you've been listening. I spent the next day in a kind of archaeological dig through our relationship. I found old movie tickets she'd saved in a drawer, birthday cards I'd written in the early years, full of promises and inside jokes, photos from trips where we looked sun-kissed and blissful, a list she'd made of baby names she liked, tucked into a novel on her nightstand, a discovery that made my heart stutter. Had she been waiting for me to be ready for that conversation? Had I been so absorbed in my career, my hobbies, my technology that I'd missed her evolution from girlfriend to woman who wanted to be a mother? A week after she left, Sarah texted me. "Dinner tomorrow, we should talk." My heart raced. This was it. The conversation that would either begin our reconciliation or finalize our separation. I replied with forced casualness. "I'd like that. Our place or somewhere else?" "Let's meet at Giovanni's. 7 p.m. Neutral territory." Not a good sign. But I pushed away the panic and spent the rest of the day finalizing what I now thought of as the plan. Not to manipulate her into staying. No, this was something different. If Sarah was willing to give me another chance, I wanted to show her I could be the partner she deserved. The next day crawled by. I changed my outfit 3 times, settled on the blue sweater Sarah always said brought out my eyes. I arrived at Giovanni's 15 minutes early and requested the quiet corner table where we'd celebrated our first anniversary. When she walked in, the sight of her nearly knocked the wind from me. She was beautiful. She was always beautiful. But there was something different about her. A determination in her posture, perhaps. Or maybe just the unfamiliarity created by our week apart. I stood awkwardly as she approached. Do I hug her? Kiss her cheek? We settled for an uncomfortable half-embrace before sitting across from each other, like cautious strangers. "You look good," I said, because she did. "Thanks." She fidgeted with her napkin. "How have you been?" Small talk. We were reduced to small talk after 5 years together. The absurdity of it made my throat tight. "Terrible," I answered honestly. "I miss you every second." Her eyes met mine, surprise flickering across her face at my directness. "Alex." "I know I've been an idiot," I continued, the words tumbling out before I could arrange them properly. "I know I've been taking you for granted. I've been so caught up in everything else that I stopped seeing you, really seeing you." She bit her lip, eyes darting away. "It's not that simple." "I know it's not. I'm not expecting to fix everything in one dinner." I reached for her hand across the table, relieved when she didn't pull away. "But I need you to know that I understand what happened. I let us drift apart. I stopped making you a priority." Her fingers trembled slightly in mine. We both got comfortable. Stopped trying. "No," I said firmly. "Don't take this on yourself. I was the one who checked out. You've been trying. The record player, the anniversary plans, all of it. I just wasn't paying attention." The waiter appeared, and we ordered mechanically. The same dishes we always got at Giovanni's. When he left, Sarah's eyes were shining with unshed tears. "I didn't leave because of the phone, you know," she said quietly. "It was just the final thing. The moment I realized you get more excited about objects than you do about our life together." Her words stung, but they were true. "I know. And I'm so sorry, Sarah. Not just for the phone, but for every time I made you feel less important than anything else in my life." She studied me, really studied me, like she was trying to read the truth behind my words. "What do you want, Alex? From us, from life?" It was the question I'd been asking myself all week. What did I want? The easy answer was you, but that wasn't enough, not anymore. "I want to be better," I said slowly. "I want to be the kind of partner who makes you feel cherished every day. I want to be someone who listens, really listens, when you speak. I want to build a life with you that's rich with experiences, not just possessions." I took a deep breath, heart hammering. "I want to take that dance class with you, and see the cherry blossoms, and learn to make your dad's pasta sauce. I want to talk about those baby names you've been collecting." Her sharp intake of breath told me I'd hit a nerve. "You found that list?" "Yes. And it made me realize how much of your heart I've been missing while I was distracted by upgrades and advancements that don't actually matter." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I didn't know if you even wanted children. You never talk about it." "Because I'm an idiot who's been afraid of the future," I admitted. "But this week without you made me see how empty that future would be, without you in it." She wiped the tear away with her napkin. "Alex, I don't need grand gestures. I just need to know that I matter to you, that I'm not just convenient." "You're everything to me," I whispered, the truth of it hitting me like a physical force. "And I'll spend every day proving it if you'll let me." Sarah's expression softened, but there was still caution in her eyes. "Words are easy." "I know, that's why I have this." I pulled out the notebook I'd been writing in all week and slid it across the table. "It's not finished, but it's a start." She opened it curiously, eyes widening as she scanned the pages. My messy handwriting filled sheet after sheet, lists of all the things she'd mentioned wanting to do, notes from my research into her love language, plans for trips and experiences we could share, quotes from books about relationships I'd devoured over the past week. "You did all this?" she asked, voice barely audible. "I had to understand what I've been missing, what I've been taking for granted." I squeezed her hand. "I don't expect you to come home tonight, or tomorrow, but I need you to know that whether it takes days or weeks or months, I'm going to keep trying, because you're worth more than any upgrade I could ever buy." The food arrived, but neither of us paid it much attention. Sarah continued to flip through the notebook, pausing occasionally to read a passage, her expression unreadable. Finally, she closed it and looked up at me. "This is a good start," she said, "but we have a lot to talk about." It wasn't the passionate reconciliation I'd fantasized about, but in her eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen in too long: hope. Sarah didn't come home that night, or the next, but something had shifted between us, the ice cracking, revealing flowing water beneath. We texted throughout the days, short messages at first, then longer ones, updates about our days, memories we shared, questions we'd never asked each other before. "What's your earliest memory?" she texted one night. "Feeding ducks with my grandfather. I was maybe 3. You?" "Hiding in my mom's closet during hide and seek. I fell asleep surrounded by her shoes and perfume. These small exchanges felt like rediscovering each other, like archaeologists gently brushing away years of accumulated dust to reveal the treasures below. 2 weeks after our dinner at Giovanni's, Sarah agreed to meet me at the park near our apartment. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom, pink clouds suspended from gnarled branches, petals drifting down like fragrant snow. I arrived early, stomach knotted with anticipation. She appeared on the path, wearing the blue sundress I'd always loved, hair loose around her shoulders. My heart stumbled in my chest at the sight of her. She looked like spring personified, like renewal and second chances. "You remembered," she said, gesturing to the blossoms overhead as she reached my bench. "Item 3 on your list," I replied with a tentative smile. "See the cherry blossoms in the park?" A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. "You really did pay attention to that list." "I'm paying attention to everything now." I stood, unsure whether to hug her. We settled for an awkward side embrace before sitting together on the bench. We watched a young family nearby, mother, father, toddler squealing as she chased fallen petals. Sarah's eyes lingered on the child. "Do you really want kids?" she asked suddenly, turning to face me. "Or was that just something you said to win me back?" The directness of her question startled me, but I welcomed it. No more dancing around important topics, no more half-listening, half-present conversations. "I want whatever future includes you," I said honestly. "And yes, I can see us with children. I think you'd be an incredible mother. But do you want them for yourself, not just to please me?" I considered this carefully. The truth was, I'd spent so many years focused on career advancement and acquiring things that I'd pushed away thoughts of fatherhood. "I think I've been afraid," I admitted. "My own dad wasn't exactly Father of the Year. I guess I've worried I'd be like him, distant, critical, always working." Sarah's expression softened. "You're nothing like your father, Alex." I haven't been so sure of that lately. The way I've been prioritizing work, technology, pretty much anything but our relationship. A cherry blossom landed in her hair, and without thinking, I reached to brush it away. My fingers lingered for a moment against her temple. She didn't pull away. "To answer your question properly," I continued, "yes, I want children with you. I want to see you holding our baby. I want to teach our kids to ride bikes and build science projects and navigate heartbreaks. I want all of it, the messy, terrifying, beautiful reality of a family. But only if you're still in this with me." She was quiet for a long moment, watching the young family as they moved down the path away from us. "I'm trying to be," she finally said. "But I need to know something's actually changed, that we won't just slip back into old patterns as soon as the crisis passes." "That's why I've been working on something." I pulled out my phone. My old one. Not the new one that had precipitated our rupture. I've been journaling every day, writing down the things I'm grateful for about you. The moments when I catch myself starting to disconnect. The ways I want to love you better. I showed her the app, filled with daily entries from the past 2 weeks. She scrolled through them, her expression unreadable. "April 15th, she read aloud. "Caught myself checking email during our phone call tonight. Put the phone down and actually listened. Realized Sarah's been dealing with a difficult client all week, and I hadn't even noticed her stress. Need to ask better questions. Need to pay better attention." Her eyes met mine. "You've really been doing this every day?" "It's the least I can do. You deserve someone who's fully present with you." She handed back the phone, fingers brushing mine in the exchange. "This is a good start, Alex, but it's just a start," I finished for her. "I know Rome wasn't built in a day, and trust isn't rebuilt in 2 weeks." She nodded, a sad smile lifting her lips. "I miss you. I miss us. but I'm scared of going back to feeling invisible again. That's why I'm not asking you to come home today. I took a deep breath. I'm asking you on a date instead. Her eyebrows lifted in surprise. A date? Next Friday, I've signed us up for that dance class you wanted to take. I pulled out the confirmation email on my phone. Beginner's ballroom at the community center, unless you'd rather try something else, swing, salsa, whatever you want. For the first time since our separation, Sarah's laugh, her real laugh, the one that crinkled the corners of her eyes, burst forth. You hate dancing. I hate making you unhappy more, I countered with a grin. Besides, maybe I'll discover a hidden talent. Doubtful. You have the rhythm of a drunken giraffe. Harsh, but fair. We both laughed then, the sound mingling with the rustle of cherry blossom petals in the spring breeze. For a moment, it felt like before, but better because now I was actually seeing her, really hearing her. So? I pressed when our laughter faded. Will you go dancing with me, Sarah Jenkins? She pretended to consider it carefully. Only if you promise not to drop me during any dips. I will hold on to you for dear life, I promised, the words carrying more meaning than just physical support. Her smile faded into something more serious. I can't come home yet, Alex. I need more time. The disappointment stung, but I nodded. I understand. We'll take it slow, date by date, dance step by dance step. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching cherry blossom petals spiral to the ground around us. After a lifetime of chasing the newest and the latest, I was finally learning the value of patience, of waiting for things that mattered. Sarah broke the silence first. What happened to the new phone? I shrugged. It's sitting in a drawer at home. Turns out it wasn't the upgrade I really needed. She nudged my shoulder with hers, a familiar gesture that made my heart swell. That was incredibly cheesy. But true. Our first date, or our first date in 7 years, was awkward in the most wonderful way. I picked her up at Jen's apartment with flowers, not the standard roses, but purple irises, her actual favorite that I'd somehow forgotten until I found an old, dried bouquet pressed in a book at home. The dance class was exactly as disastrous as we'd anticipated. I stepped on her toes twice, apologizing profusely each time. She counted beats under her breath, her forehead creased in concentration, but by the end of the lesson we had mastered a simple box step, moving in tentative harmony across the scuffed wooden floor. When I drove her back to Jen's, we sat in the car for a long moment, neither wanting the evening to end. I had fun tonight, she said, fingers playing with the stem of one of the irises I'd given her. Even with your crushed toes? Even with my crushed toes. Her smile was soft in the dim light. You tried. That means something. I turned toward her, gathering my courage. Can I kiss you goodnight? She hesitated, and for a moment I thought I'd overstepped. Then she leaned across the console and pressed her lips to mine. A brief, gentle kiss that carried all the sweetness of a new beginning. I'll call you tomorrow, she whispered before slipping out of the car. I watched her walk to Jen's door, turning once to wave before disappearing inside. As I drove home alone to our apartment, I realized something profound. For the first time since she'd left, I felt hopeful. Not because of any promise she'd made, but because I was finally becoming the man she deserved. Date by date, we rebuilt our connection. A picnic in the park, an afternoon at the art museum she'd been wanting to visit, a cooking class where we learned to make her father's pasta sauce together, flour in our hair, and tomato stains on our aprons. Each time I drove her back to Jen's. Each time our goodnight kisses grew longer. Each time the question hung unspoken between us. When are you coming home? I didn't push. This was Sarah's decision to make, her timeline to set. Instead, I focused on being present in each moment we shared, on listening when she spoke, on noticing the small details I'd overlooked for too long. A month after our first dance class, Sarah called me on a Wednesday afternoon. "Can you come pick me up?" she asked without preamble. "Of course. Is everything okay? Are you at work?" Scenarios of accidents or emergencies flashed through my mind. "I'm at Jen's, and yes, everything's fine. I need you to come get me." I broke every speed limit getting there. When I pulled up, she was sitting on the stoop with a suitcase beside her. My heart stuttered at the sight. She stood as I approached, expression unreadable. "I think it's time." "Time?" I repeated, hardly daring to hope what she meant. "Time to come home," she said simply. "If you still want me to." I wrapped her in my arms, burying my face in her hair. I never stopped wanting that. When we arrived at our apartment, I carried her suitcase inside, with the reverence of someone handling precious cargo. She paused in the entryway, looking around as if seeing the space with new eyes. "I made some changes," I said nervously. "Nothing major, well, you'll see." The changes were subtle but meaningful. Photos of us that had been tucked away in albums were now framed and displayed. A vase of fresh flowers sat on the dining table. The technological clutter that had once dominated our living room was now contained to one modest corner. And in the bedroom, the bedside table that had once held my charging station now contained a framed copy of her "Things to Do This Year" list, with each item ceremoniously checked off, even those we hadn't actually completed yet, but had scheduled for upcoming weekends. Sarah ran her fingers over the frame, tears welling in her eyes. "You remembered everything." "I'm trying to," I said honestly. "I'm going to keep trying every day." She turned to me then, and the look in her eyes, the one I remembered from that first photo at the coffee shop, made my breath catch. "I love you, Alex. I never stopped, even when I was angry." "I love you too, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it." Sarah moved back in that night, and although many challenges lay ahead of us, something fundamental had shifted. The night she left, I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. Instead, I'd gained the most important upgrade of all, in myself. It's been 1 year since the night Sarah came home. 1 year of rebuilding, reconnecting, and relearning how to love each other intentionally. I wish I could say everything was perfect from that moment forward, that our relationship never again hit rough patches, that I never slipped back into old habits. But life isn't that simple, and real love isn't a fairy tale ending, it's a daily choice. There were setbacks. 3 months after she moved back in, I caught myself falling into the familiar pattern of distraction during dinner, my eyes darting to the notification that had lit up my phone screen. Sarah noticed immediately, her sentence trailing off mid-thought. "I'm sorry," I said quickly, turning the phone face down. "Tell me more about what happened with your client today." She gave me a sad smile. "You weren't listening, were you?" The shame was immediate and sharp. "I'm sorry," I repeated more earnestly. "Old habits." Instead of anger or disappointment, Sarah reached across the table and took my phone. Without a word, she turned it off completely and placed it in the center of the table between us. "Tell me what you heard," she said softly. "Something about a presentation? And your boss being impressed?" I fumbled, realizing how little I'd absorbed. "Close enough." She squeezed my hand. "Alex, I know this isn't easy. Change never is. But I need you to keep trying." That night, I added a new entry to my gratitude journal. Thankful for Sarah's patience as I learned to be better. Thankful for second chances I don't always deserve. The next day I installed an app that tracked how many times I picked up my phone, setting limits on usage during our together time. Small steps, daily choices, constant vigilance against the pull of distraction. There were victories, too. Last summer, I surprised Sarah with that weekend trip to the mountains she'd been wanting. No phones, no laptops, just us, a rustic cabin, and miles of hiking trails beneath an endless blue sky. We talked for hours around the fire pit each night, sharing dreams and fears we'd never voiced before. I learned that Sarah had always wanted to write children's books, but had been afraid to try. She learned that I sometimes worried I was turning into my workaholic father, despite my best intentions. "Why have we never talked about these things before?" she wondered aloud, firelight dancing across her face. "Because we were too busy being comfortable," I replied. "Too busy existing together instead of really knowing each other." On our last night at the cabin, Sarah turned to me with a serious expression. "I need to tell you something." My heart sank, old fears resurfacing. Had I failed again somehow? Was she unhappy? "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the mountain air between us, stunning me into silence. When I finally found my voice, it was barely a whisper. "You're sure?" She nodded, eyes searching mine for a reaction. 8 weeks. I found out just before we left for this trip. I pulled her into my arms, tears streaming unchecked down my face. "Sarah, this is everything." "You're happy then?" she asked, her voice small and vulnerable in a way I rarely heard it. "Happy doesn't begin to cover it." I placed my hand gently on her still flat stomach. "I'm terrified and exhilarated and overwhelmed and just completely in love with you both already." That night, under a canopy of stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch, we made plans and promises. Not just for nursery colors and name ideas, but for the kind of parents we wanted to be. The kind of partners we would continue to be for each other. "I want our child to see what real love looks like," Sarah whispered. "Not perfect love. We'll never manage that. But intentional love. Present love." "They will," I promised. Every day. Today marks exactly 1 year since Sarah came home, and 7 months since that night in the mountains. Our apartment now has a nursery where my home office used to be. Pale yellow walls, a wooden crib my father-in-law helped me build, a bookshelf already filled with stories Sarah can't wait to read to our daughter. The shelves in our living room that once displayed my collection of gadgets now hold framed photos of our journey. Sarah's growing belly at 3 months, 5 months, 7 months. The ultrasound image where we first saw our daughter's profile. Sarah and me at our dance recital. Yes, we've kept up with classes, and no, I still can't avoid occasionally stepping on her toes. My new phone, not the one that triggered our separation, but a modest upgrade I genuinely needed for work months later, now has more photos of Sarah than anything else. My background image is her at 6 months pregnant, laughing in a field of wildflowers, one hand on her rounded belly. It's a constant reminder of what really matters. Tonight, I'm taking Sarah back to Giovanni's for an anniversary dinner. Not our wedding anniversary, that's still months away, but the anniversary of the day I began to understand what it means to truly love someone. The day I started my most important upgrade. The hostess seats us at our table, the same corner spot where we had our reconciliation dinner a year ago. Sarah eases herself into the chair, her movements careful with the weight of our nearly due daughter. "You look beautiful," I tell her, because she does. Radiant in a way that transcends conventional beauty, glowing with life and purpose. "I look like I swallowed a beach ball," she counters with a laugh. "A very beautiful beach ball." She rolls her eyes, but can't hide her smile. We order, and I reach across the table to take her hand, my thumb tracing circles on her palm. Do you remember what you said to me at this table a year ago? I ask. Sarah thinks for a moment. I think I said a lot of things. Most of them were probably about how you needed to get your act together. I chuckle. You said words are easy, and you were right. And yet, here we are. Her expression softens. You've backed up those words with action every day since. Not every day, I admit. I've stumbled. I'll probably keep stumbling. But you get back up. You keep trying. She squeezes my hand. That's all I ever wanted. After dinner, I help Sarah into her coat and lead her not to the car, but down the street to the small park where we used to walk in the early days of our relationship. The cherry trees are dormant now in the winter chill, their branches bare silhouettes against the night sky. What are we doing here? She asks, breath-forming clouds in the cold air. It's freezing, and I have to pee approximately every 7 minutes these days. Just a quick detour. I guide her to a bench beneath the largest cherry tree. I wanted to give you something. From my pocket, I withdraw a small velvet box. Not a ring. We've been married for years. Sarah eyes it curiously. If this is another gadget, your timing is questionable, she jokes. Open it. Inside is a delicate gold necklace with 2 intertwined circles as a pendant. I lift it from the box. 1 circle for each of us, I explain, fastening it around her neck. And when our daughter arrives, we'll add a 3rd. Sarah's fingers touch the pendant, eyes shining with tears. It's perfect. I've been thinking a lot about what happened last year, I say, sitting beside her on the bench. About how close I came to losing everything that matters because I was chasing things that don't. She leans her head on my shoulder. We both needed that wake-up call. Me too. You? I had stopped communicating what I needed, she admits. I was expecting you to read my mind, then resenting you when you couldn't. Relationships go both ways. I wrap my arm around her shoulders, marveling at her generosity of spirit. Even now she's willing to share responsibility for our struggles when I had been the one most at fault. I've been working on something else too, I tell her. Something I want to share with you tonight. From my other pocket, I produce a small leather-bound journal. Not my phone this time, but an actual physical notebook filled with my handwriting. What's this? She asks, as I place it in her hands. Letters to our daughter. 1 for each week since we found out about her. Things I want her to know someday. Lessons I've learned. Promises I want to keep for both of you. Sarah opens the journal, fingers tracing the words on the first page. My dearest daughter, before you were even born, you taught me the most important lesson of my life. That love isn't found in grand gestures or expensive gifts, but in being truly present for the people who matter most. Your mother showed me that, and I promise to show you every day of your life. Sarah can't finish reading through her tears. She closes the journal and presses it to her heart. This is the real upgrade, I whisper, kissing her temple. Learning to love better, learning to be present, learning what actually matters. She turns her face to mine, and we kiss beneath the dormant cherry trees, with the promise of spring to come. Our daughter kicks between us, as if signaling her agreement. Later that night, as Sarah sleeps beside me, her hand resting protectively on her belly, I lie awake, thinking about the journey that brought us here. How something as trivial as a smartphone purchase exposed the cracks in our foundation. How close I came to losing everything that gives my life meaning. I reach for my phone, an old habit that may never fully die. But instead of checking email or social media, I open the camera and quietly capture this moment. Sarah, peaceful in sleep, bathed in moonlight from the window, our daughter safely growing beneath her heart. This, I think, as I set the phone aside without posting or sharing the image, is the view I never want to upgrade from. This is the only notification that truly matters. This is what it means to be rich beyond measure. In a drawer somewhere, that shiny new phone that nearly cost me my marriage still sits, barely used. A reminder of a lesson learned at almost too high a price. That the most important connections in life aren't wireless, and the most valuable upgrades aren't made of metal and glass. They're made of moments, of presence, of love chosen and renewed each day. As if sensing my thoughts, Sarah stirs beside me. Her eyes flutter open, finding mine in the dimness. "You're thinking too loudly," she murmurs sleepily. "Just counting my blessings." Her hand finds mine, guiding it to rest where our daughter kicks rhythmically. "We're counting on you too, you know, to keep remembering what matters." I won't forget again, I promise, knowing that this moment, this woman, this life we're building, is the only upgrade that has ever truly mattered. Sarah smiles and drifts back to sleep, her fingers intertwined with mine. And I make a silent vow to our daughter, to Sarah, to myself, to remain present for every precious second, to value connection over distraction, to choose love actively, intentionally, daily, for all the days to come. Because some things, once lost, can never be replaced. And some upgrades, once made, change everything that matters.